You Have to Get Out of the Boat by Jeff Cavins.
It's very apropos because the story that we're talking about is when Jesus came walking on the water at night. And so we have set the stage. We lowered the light for you so that we could all be out here at this time. Well, this is really a special time for us to come together and to spend some time right in the middle of the Sea of Galilee. There's a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. This particular time is really a time where I like to challenge people to really listen to the voice of God in their life. While it's quiet out here, we're going to take a few minutes even before I get going just to kind of soak it in, think for a few minutes, meditate for a few minutes. But Mount Hermon is further up to the north. The water from Mount Hermon rolls down into the Jordan, and it comes down here into the Sea of Galilee, and then it empties on the southern edge of the Sea of Galilee, and the Jordan River goes all the way down to the Dead Sea. And there's a little story to learn from that, and that is that our lives oftentimes will follow either the model of the Sea of Galilee or the Dead Sea. The Sea of Galilee has fresh water coming into it, and as a result, there's fresh fish here, fresh life, and it's teeming with life. But the Dead Sea, it doesn't have any life in it at all. It's completely dead, but it's very, very rich. And the reason is it doesn't have an outlet. And so our lives kind of emulate one or the other. We're either like the Sea of Galilee, we have life coming in and we give out life, or we just take. So we're at the body of water that really is the one we want to emulate, and that is we receive and we give out freely, and there's life constantly in our families, in our churches, where we're working. I'd like to take just a couple of minutes of really complete silence and just soak in the moment of being out here on the Sea of Galilee at night, and then I'm going to share with you a teaching that took place right here on the Sea of Galilee. So let's just take a moment and let's ask God to bless our time together. And suddenly a storm comes up and your boat starts rocking pretty heavily. How frightening that might be. The story that I'd like to share with you this evening comes from Matthew chapter 14. And it's the story of Jesus walking on the water. But I want to preface what I'm about to share with you about Jesus walking on the water by talking a little bit about where you're at in your life right now. We've all decided to go on a pilgrimage together, and I think that makes our relationship with one another very special. Out of the billions of people that have ever lived on the earth, what are the odds that we would be born at the same time? And going deeper than that, not only were we born at the same time, but we all, by the grace of God, became Christians. We received Christ, and we follow Jesus Christ, and He's transformed our lives, He's transformed our families, and we are part of this magnificent family. And we have to ask yourself, what are the odds that we would come together at this time in history, and all of us, 145 of us, would share this special moment on the Sea of Galilee at this time in history? That makes our relationship with each other very, very special, our relationships very special, and it tells me that God wants to do something special with our lives. I'm sure that many of you are like my wife and myself in that we don't consider our lives as an accident. Emily and I, when we first met, after she went head over heels over me, I just asked her to marry me. Actually, it was reverse. But after we met, we decided that we would base our entire lives on Jesus Christ and following Him, and that our whole life would be made up of following God and His kingdom. And that meant that we were saying yes together, that we were open to a supernatural life. We were open to a life that was not normal, that was not the everyday life, but was going to be really an adventure in following Jesus Christ. Which means that our lives with Christ must be different. And so many people today live their life in what I would call just a very hum-ho, boring life. And that is a life where they simply exist to get from one paycheck to the next, one year to the next, and hopefully one day they'll retire, and sooner or later this whole thing will be over with. And that's kind of the way that they live their life. It's kind of a putting up with life rather than a living life and looking for the opportunity to follow Christ and to go on that great adventure with Jesus. I want to talk to you a little bit about that this evening because you have chosen to come on a pilgrimage, and there's a big difference between a pilgrimage and a vacation or just a trip. A pilgrimage is seeking Christ. It's seeking the face of Christ. It's looking for direction from the Lord in your life. A vacation is just shutting everything out. A trip is just accomplishing something, you're going to go somewhere. But a pilgrimage is seeking someone, and that is the Lord. And when it comes to seeking the Lord has something for you. He has a plan for you. And that plan necessitates us getting out of the boat, going out and doing things that we normally wouldn't do. And that's certainly what the Lord said to the apostles, his disciples, was that he wanted them to do the work that he had called them to, or to do his work, the work of the Messiah. And this really comes alive to me in this story of Jesus walking on water. So I want to read the story to you first, and then I will elaborate. I have a couple of stories that I want to share with you. This is taken from Matthew chapter 14 and verse 22 and following. Then he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. Now, I have to just tell you, preface this story that I'm about to read, just prior to the story, Jesus was on that bright orange light over there. See the bright orange light over there? In that area, to the left, actually. Where is Mug? What is the top guy?
Right over there.
Yeah, top guy, right?
Top guy's right over there.
Right, kind of to the left of the orange light. Yeah. To the left of the orange light. That area over there along the shore is Top Guy. That's where the feeding of the 5,000 took place. And so the feeding of the 5,000 took place on the northern shores there. Then this story takes place. He made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. And there are hills as it goes up there. There's hills, and we're going to be up in those hills. But when evening came, he was there alone. But the boat, by this time, was many furlongs distant from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, that's in the real dark hours of the night, wee morning hours, he came to them walking on the sea. Now, they were fishermen, so they would be out in the boat, and oftentimes there's fishermen out here very late at night and into the early morning. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. Now, I'll ask you, would you be terrified if suddenly you looked out over the edge of the boat over here and you saw someone walking toward you? Would you go, oh, it's the Lord? Now, what do you want? Or would you be terrified? Would you think, what is going on? This is not normal. This is out of the ordinary. I'm not used to this. I'm used to the evening news at 10, having a bowl of popcorn, and then we're going to go to bed. This is unusual. And he came walking on the water, and they were terrified, saying, it's a ghost. And they cried out for fear. But immediately he spoke to them, saying, take heart, it is I, have no fear. Have no fear. And Peter answered him, Lord, and I love this answer that Peter gives the Lord. He said, Lord, if it is you, bid me come to you on the water. So you can imagine if the Lord is out there and all of a sudden you guys started yelling, hey, it's a ghost. And then you hear back, no, it's me, the Lord. And then I'm Peter, and I yelled back, if it's you, ask me to come to you. Now you're probably thinking at that point, you're crazy. Shut up, Jeff. You don't know what you're doing. And so what does Peter say at that point? I love what Peter says. Peter said, Lord, if it's you, ask me to come to you on the water, or come to you. And what did the Lord say? The Lord says, Peter, It's only a teaching. Stay dry. Stay in the boat. No, that's not what Jesus said, did he? What did Jesus say? He said, come. Come. Now put yourself in the boat. You did. But put yourself in the situation where you're in the boat with a few disciples of Jesus, the apostles, and Peter is saying, Lord, if that's you, ask me to come to you. Matthew probably is saying, shh, Peter, calm down, calm down. And you hear this, if that's you, ask me to come. And then you hear this voice out there, come. Then you have to make a decision. Are you going to get out of the boat? Or are you going to just sit there and say, this was a good teaching? This was great. Now, what would you say if you saw me grabbing a hold of this and taking a step over? If I actually stepped over, would you feel like, whoa, 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 stop, stop? You might feel a little bit uncomfortable if I was about ready to step over the edge. Stepping out of the boat is what separates the followers of Christ from the spectators, from those who are just going to sit safely and listen to those who are going to get out of the boat and say, I'm willing to follow you. And Jesus didn't say, get out of the boat and do the backstroke or anything. He just said, come. Peter said, ask me to come to you. And Jesus said, come. So Peter had to make that decision. And I imagine him taking that one foot up over the edge. And there again, Matthew is probably saying, Peter, don't go overboard. Get it? Overboard? It's a boat. You're on a boat. I just want to remind you, you're on a boat right now. You might not see everything. You're on a boat. So he gets that one foot over, and then comes the real test. That other foot comes up, and there he is, walking on the water. And he begins to go to the Lord. Listen to what it says. Peter said to him, Lord, if it's you, ask me to come to you on the water. He said, come. So Peter got out of the boat, walked on the water, and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. And Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. So we have this marvelous story here about getting out of the boat. And the truth of the matter is that there's only one person in that boat that night, when it was dark like this. There's only one person that really came to know that that was Jesus on the water. And it was Peter. Because the truth is, the only way we really get to know Christ is to walk according to his ways, to get out of the boat, to do what the Lord has called us to do. And there are people that will sit their whole lives in the boat, paddling year after year. Yep, I believe in the Immaculate Conception. Yep. And they'll paddle a little bit more. I believe in the real presence. And they'll tell everyone else going by, we're Catholic. Yep, yep. And they'll tell everyone for years, this is what we believe. And then there's those who get out of the boat and they walk on water. And that's what I really believe the Lord is calling us to do, is to get out of the boat and to walk on water.
Go to part 2.